Catherine Reid Day, and coming up next on the St. Paul Forum, I'm speaking with Osman Ali, founder of the Somali Museum. That's next on the St. Paul Forum. Welcome to the St. Paul Forum. I'm Catherine Reid Day, and joining me today is Osman Ali, founder of the Somali Museum. Welcome, Osman.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and thanks for hosting me today in SPNN.
Yes.
And thanks for the whole crew.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So we're going to talk about this first ever Somali Museum, first in the country, first of its kind. But first, I would also like to have you tell us a little bit about what brought you to this country and eventually to Minneapolis.
Thank you. It's a good question. And I was working in the United Arab Emirates for a long time. And I was like 19 years in the United Arab Emirates. One of my friends tried to get a visa to the United States, and there was a time that people were filling applications for lottery visa. So he tried to help me and get a visa. So he filled the application for me, and I was not even, knowing anything about this visa. He didn't explain anything to me. Mm-hmm. And he filled the whole application and everything. He took all my legal documents and filled the whole document. Then he sent it to the United States. He didn't tell me or explain anything to me. And after a couple months, he called me and he told me, hey, you get a visa lottery to the United States. I said, how? He said, that time you remember? That day I filled this application for you.
Here you were coming to the United States and
that's how I came to the United States.
Okay. What I kind of wanted to get at is what was happening in your country at the time. You're from Somalia originally. What was happening in the country that would bring so many people to the Twin Cities area? Yeah,
there was a civil war in Somalia, and that civil war started, in 1991, and a lot of people fled from the war. And it was a bad war, and a lot of people has been killed, and some of them, they were refugee in camps in Kenya, in Ethiopia, and that's how this lot of, immigrants, actually refugees came here.
Yes.
And there's other people who were immigrants coming from other countries. Like me, I was immigrant coming from the United Arab Emirates. Mm-hmm. So the immigrants and the refugee came and met in Minnesota.
I see. And what was it especially about Minnesota that attracted so many Somali to this area?
When I came to the United States, I came first in New York. When I came to New York, there was not that much jobs, for the, ordinary people, so it was something hard to find a job that fits your need. So I went again to Houston, Texas. The wages were like $5, $5.50, $6.
The wages?
The wage that time, unless you are professional, qualified for certain jobs. And then I called one of my friends here in Minnesota. He said, why you are there? Here you're getting a good job, a lot of opportunities, a lot of help, a lot of things here. Everything is, is gonna be set up. I said, that's right. He said, yes. Then I moved here. I tried. First time I came here, I applied for my ID. Next day, I went to get my driving license. Actually, I failed the first day.
Oh.
Then next time I went back because I went to one way.
Uh-oh.
And then next time I went the next day, I get the driving lessons maybe after 3 days while I was in Minnesota. Then I tried to buy a car because I have money. I came from the United Arab Emirates, a rich country. I was working and I have a good job there. So I bought a car in a week. After a week, I have a job. Then after 2 weeks, I have 2 jobs.
Oh my.
So it was so amazing.
You were meant to be here.
Yeah.
You were meant to become this great citizen. So it's been about 20 years, and during that time, when did you start thinking about founding this museum, and what made you want to do it?
And actually, I myself, I was trying to help the community always. And since I came to the United States, I was working for the community. I started driving school and I started, interpreter for different language, Arabic, English, Somali for them. And I started after that food delivery, catering company, serving the community, schools. So I was in the community, serving the community in different ways. So in 2009, I traveled to Somalia, and it was my first time to travel to Somalia since last time I left Somalia in 1976, January.
Oh my, so really long time.
Long time.
Mm-hmm.
So
and did you still have family in
Yes.
Somalia? So you were going to visit your family and
Yes.
reconnect?
2009 was my first time because my dad was sick.
Oh.
And he was ill, and I went to visit him. So 2009, when I went back to Somalia for the first time, maybe for a time of 30 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried myself to learn something about the culture because I was in diaspora for a long time. And my childhood, I was in Yemen. And I studied my early childhood and my elementary school, my middle school, all in Yemen. Then we moved to Somalia, so in 1968. So after that, I moved back to the United Arab Emirates in 76. So from there, you can realize that I was out of the country for a long, long time. So I like the culture. I like the traditional ways. I like the way they were living a long time ago. I was studying myself, the Somali history, the Somali heritage, their culture, the way they were living, their nomadic societies. When I went there, I found the young generation who was living back in Somalia, whom I thought they know everything, they know nothing about the Somali culture. They very rarely, 20% may say something about the culture, because there was kind of, displacement for them, and they moved from the bush, from the nomadic society to the cities because of the civil war, because of the droughts, because of the lot of things were happening that time in Somalia. So what happened is I tried to know something about these people, but I found they left everything behind. They are not making even the artifact that the nomadic society was doing before. They
I'm
were
sorry,
living
could you say that again? They did not understand the nomadic nature of their society?
Life. And the nomadic people, they were doing their utensils, their pieces of whatever they use for their containers from the wood, from the animal skin. They no more doing that. They were using like a lot of things, woven stuff, very beautiful, things that they cover with their traditional hats. They no more doing that too. So I tried to preserve something from this culture that might, disappear from the whole world if they continue in this situation. And after like 20 years from now, I scared we may not find anything.
Not really find any of the cultural artifacts that are important
Absolutely.
to how. And when you speak about the nomadic culture of Somalia, over what period of time? I mean, how many years are we talking about for a nomadic culture?
Still, we have a nomadic people there. And Somalis, they were a nomadic society. 85% of the Somali population, and long time ago. When we talk about like
when in time?
40 years from now, before 40 years, they were like 85% of they were nomadic. And after that, they were coming to the cities, step by step, every time a group were, missing this kind of society. So what happened is when they forget everything they had long time ago, and I came to know that these people may not do this kind of artifact because still we have like 40% of them still nomadic, and they use the same thing, but it's not that much. They use other types. They don't do the actual artifact they were using before. They're using
and what
plastics.
We're talking about here, when you're talking about artifacts, you're saying that they use two materials, primarily wood and animal skins.
Yep.
And those would make their meal containers, they would be their seats, anything that they needed to live.
Absolutely.
So it'd be whatever kind of housing. And when I say housing, since they're nomadic, it would be temporary housing.
Absolutely.
So in this particular nomadic culture, how often did they move onward from wherever they would set up a camp? I mean, was it a matter of days? Was it seasonal of some kind? How did that look?
These nomadic people, they depend on the grass for their, livestock and the rain. Whenever they have these two, they move to. And they have temporary, huts that move with them always. And it's kind of wood frames that they build and woven stuff they cover on the top of it. So that stays with them the period that they are, staying on that camps, on that specific area where their, livestock, they have the grass that they can eat or the water that they can drink and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Osman Ali about the new Somali Museum on Lake Street. Let's talk now about what prompted you to put this museum onto Lake Street, and how did that come about? This is at the corner of Lake and Bloomington.
Yes.
And a landmark for anyone who knows the Twin Cities would be that it's right next door to the Heart of the Beast Theater and just across the street from Mercado Central. So how did this come about to form this museum?
Okay. To get this space, it took me a long time. And for a year and couple months, I was just looking for a space. And I have this kind of artifacts that I collected from Somalia, which I was from since 2009 to 2013. I was back and forth to Somalia collecting.
From what I've seen, they're beautiful.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to going myself, but we're talking about instruments, vessels, various skins of various animals. I'm assuming goats, camel?
Yep.
What other animal skins?
We have different animal skins like goat, sheep, cattle, camel. They use all that, animal skins for different purposes, for their daily life.
For the daily life. So
Yeah.
this will be a chance to really come in and experience.
Absolutely.
Is it possible to touch things in the museum?
Yes, some items you can touch, And if I answer the question how I came to this Lake Street, is I was looking for a space for a while. And finally, with the help of NDC,
Neighborhood Development Corporation.
absolutely, I know this company, and they lease, spaces also. And Mike Tamali is the founder of that, neighborhood and NDC. And I saw him one day and asked him if he has any space. He said, the lower level is empty and we can give you that space.
Nice.
Then I went there and I looked at the space. It was 5 small rooms and it fits part of the artifacts that I had. So we get that space, we put the artifacts we have, and still we have some in storage, some in other places, but at least we have a space that tells the communities that there is a museum there, and we are trying to move to a bigger location because we have to display everything we had in a other bigger space. And we have the traditional hats right now. Actually, we have 2 of them. We're gonna build them in the museum when we get the bigger space. And on June 21st, in the Somali Independence Day, we have 3 blocks in Lake Street. So we're gonna build a community village in that area. And with the girls, they're gonna demonstrate a lot of different, traditional, stuff in this community place.
Is that a weekday or a weekend, the 25th?
It's 21st is gonna be Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
Saturday. And after that, we're gonna move to downtown, 319 First Avenue.
319 First Avenue?
In downtown Minneapolis.
And that's where the huts will be?
That's where the huts and the 2 traditional huts is gonna be built, and we're gonna display a lot of artifacts and arts in the place.
Wow.
With the help of other artists also. So
Fabulous.
we'll have that space for couple months.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And now, will that be open to certain hours and people can come through during those hours?
Absolutely. It's gonna be open certain hours every day, and people may come there and just join us and look at these artifacts and the traditional village we have there, and people may learn something about it. And the whole concept of this is to build a bridge that connects community to each other, and they learn from each other.
Great. As you're talking, I'm picturing a beautiful part of the Minnesota History Museum here that's in St. Paul, where they have a Hmong home, and you come in and you experience what their living situation is like. Is there something similar in the Minnesota History Museum about the Somalis, or is your display really the first of its kind, or do you know?
It's the first. Long time ago, there was one, similar one, and the same actually in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And it was the 70s, 71, 72, 73, and then it was in the library of Washington, D.C., and they built it once in New York in the 70s also. And I don't know where that is right now. We didn't hear anything about it. Maybe in somewhere in one of the museums, but this is a new. We collected from Somalia to Dubai, from Dubai to New York, from New York to here.
Great.
So this is the first one.
Yeah.
We're gonna build it here.
Well, one of the things I think is so important is, I love the idea that you're talking about these bridges, but part of what you're talking about is helping young people understand their own cultural roots, it seems to me. Is that important to the mission?
That's one of the missions, to teach the young generations who born and raised here in the United States or otherwhere in other, states or neighboring countries to learn something about their heritage, to learn something about where their ancestors were living a long time ago and what they were doing and how they were doing this kind of beautiful artifacts. And at the same time, we know these people were, uneducated people. They were, they don't read, they don't write.
I was just going to ask you that. So it was an
Yeah.
oral tradition.
Oral, yeah.
And so the stories and learning was all passed through the oral tradition. Was it quite musical then? Not just spoken word, but also musical?
Absolutely. And they are famous, the Somali nomadic society heritage, they are famous with the poetry. They were
Poetry.
Yes, poetry. And they known as the poetry people.
The poetry people.
Yes.
That's so lovely.
The reason is they were delivering their message always by poetry. And they never just talk like ordinary talk and they write a letter and send it to someone, but by poetry they send their message and deliver it, and that's how they were understanding each other. And
so memorization was almost natural because of the structure of the message.
exactly.
So that was easy to remember.
Easy to remember. They memorize it by heart because they don't write. But in the beginning of the 19th century, people were writing Arabic because the Quran was in Arabic language. So some of the scholars were writing, they know how to write the Quran, so still they can write a little bit of Arabic and they can send message through the Arabic language. And other than that, they were sending their message and deliver it through poetry. And they memorize it, whether it's 20 pages or 30 pages, they have to memorize it and send it to the other people.
So is that still important in the culture? Do you find that your young people are naturally bringing that talent forward?
Still that talent is, available. And still they are, they are in that talent still. And they are, composing and absolutely they have this kind of talent still.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, you said that you've gotten free support from the NDC to have your space. How else are you supporting this? Is this all volunteer run when your doors are open? Do you take donations? How is this keeping going?
Things are going so far good, and we opened the doors and we accepted by a lot of visitors came and
Sure.
people were donating as individuals and as a group, as organizations, but not that much, but something at least to support us to stand a little bit and just to start up. And it's not that much, but still we are getting kind of support from different organizations and different, art organizations actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So there's an interest in the arts community for what you're doing.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
fabulous.
And we getting from, visiting, when they visit to the museum, they pay slight fee of $10, the visitors, and that help us to pay the rent, to pay whatever we need to do. And part of the project that we have for the museum is to open 5 classes.
5 classes?
Yes.
Classrooms to
educate the people, education. And one of that 5 classes is the weaving class.
Oh.
And already that started like 2 months ago. And we have couple, like more than 10 people graduated, and they know how to make weavings. Some of them, they make, their own bags, shoulders. And some of them, they make some decoration, carpets, and they.
And so are these things that they'll be able to sell possibly, or is this mostly to keep the craft alive?
Yeah,
A little bit of both, maybe.
Still, we are not selling anything.
Okay.
But in the future, when we move to a bigger location, there will be a gift store in the place that we can sell small stuff, traditional stuff that, explains or, as a gift, people may buy it and give it to other people.
Wonderful. So one of the things we'll want to do is make sure people come to your website so they can learn more about your hours and your location and these upcoming events. So what is your website?
The website is Somali-Museum.com, or if they can put other way, Somali Artifact and Cultural Museum, both the website is gonna come.
They both work.
Yeah, it works. And now we are open by, scheduling,
Good.
by appointment.
Oh, by appointment.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Through the website. And somebody is gonna call back then when they leave their information.
Okay.
Then we fix the appointment if it's
Great.
the right hours. And at the same time, we accept also a field trips. Schools come.
Very nice.
And the capacity that can come at one time is like 40.
40. So basically a classroom of students can come and visit.
One or two classrooms.
1 to 2 classrooms of students.
Because the capacity cannot fit all that small rooms.
Very nice. So that's a nice, intimate learning experience.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll encourage everyone to make sure they join you on the 25th of June.
21st of June.
21st of June.
Yes.
I misheard you. Thank you. It is a Saturday.
Saturday,
I know that day.
Yes.
21st of June is the celebration. And then later at Nicollet Mall, July 11th.
July 11th is going to be the first.
It's the beginning of several days of experiences.
Couple months in that place.
Wonderful.
And it's going to be a village, community village, traditional way. And anyone who comes through that place, if he was a nomadic person who was living in a nomadic society, and he can express and see as if he is in the real life of nomadic society. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Osman. We appreciate your time today. That's all we have time for. Come join us again next week on the St. Paul Forum.